Welcome. Good morning. I'm Lauren Slocum on behalf of the Central Rhode Island Chamber, and we want to thank you for joining us today as we learn more about our 401k, the options and benefits available. So please join me in welcoming our presenter, Jeff Massey. You might recognize him as a radio show and host, and author. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? All
Excellent.
good?
Excellent.
Terrific.
All good.
We're excited to learn more today, so they're all yours.
All right. And are you able to see my screen?
If you click on the bottom with share screen.
Okay. Share screen.
It should pop up.
You disabled screen sharing.
I shouldn't have. Hold, please.
Let's try it one more time. No, it's still showing disabled.
Okay, hang on. And try it now.
Okay. So that should be my screen. And
apparently Zoom upgraded the options and now they pre-do it so you can't share.
all right. So
wonderful. We have your screen.
we have that up there now.
We do.
Wonderful. All right. So just wanted to say a quick welcome to everybody. And there we go. Now I've got the toolbar that's blocking everything, but I presume nobody else can see that toolbar going across the slides, right?
I just see a slide.
All right, perfect. That's exactly what we're hoping for. So thanks for joining us today. Our goal today is to provide you with some real helpful information regarding your 401k and your potential rollover options that you may have. Sadly, many people have lost their job with the COVID virus, and it's become a real issue, and a lot of people will be able to take advantage of a 401k rollover. So we wanted to just provide some details as to how you might be able to do that effectively. Now, there's a lot of information that we'll be sharing in kind of a short amount of time. So we'd like to offer a couple of things to the audience. First, you can text IRA to 200-7200 for a white paper on the Secure Act, which was implemented in January, that will have an impact on your ability to save during your accumulation years, and more so on the back end with your distribution issues that may arise during your retirement years and once you've passed away and you pass it on to somebody else. Also, we'll offer a complimentary call, a phone call. Simply text the word visit to 200-7200 and we can schedule something there for you. And then, of course, since this is a financial topic, we have to put up our disclosure. Now, I'm not going to read this word for word, but in essence, it's there to say that this is generic information. It's not intended to be personal advice for anybody on the webinar, but we do offer that complimentary call so that we can provide any particular details to you based on your current circumstances. So why is this so important? Well, it's so challenging today to make real thoughtful decisions about your retirement money when you're changing jobs. And we want to help evaluate the different choices that you have in understanding those options. And then we'll touch a little bit on asset allocation, building your retirement plan. The important point with asset allocation is that it does not eliminate risk to your portfolio. It just spreads things out a little bit. So there's some misconception sometimes where if we asset allocate correctly, we won't have to worry about downturns in the market, and that's not an accurate statement. So why is this so important? Well, the decisions you make about your retirement plan distribution can have a huge impact on your future. So let's touch on it here. Where's your money going to come from in retirement? Well, Social Security is probably the likely source, but the pie chart breaks down the sources for today's retirees. However, as we move forward in time, the Social Security part of this could definitely be different for people that are 10, 15, 20 years away from retirement, because we don't know what's going to happen with Social Security in the future. So your personal savings will play a much larger role in your retirement plan overall. Now, the big question and the number one concern that people have that we meet with, whether they've got, a couple 100,000 or a couple million, doesn't matter. Number one concern is, do I have enough to retire on? So this slide shows us the likelihood of, let's say a 50-year-old male has a 50-50 chance of making it to his 85th birthday and a 25% chance of living to age 93. So those are big numbers. When you think about that, you're going to work for probably about 4 decades. But how many of us thought when we were early on that we might live for 3 or 4 decades in retirement, and started planning accordingly by saving enough money to make sure that we could actually support ourselves in retirement? Now, tax deferred rollovers. The main important thing here is that the value of tax deferral. And if you look at the green shading on the slide there, that's the advantage of maintaining your tax deferred status as opposed to taking a cash distribution, say when you change jobs. So the importance here, if you look at the big difference in that green shaded area, that's very significant when you look at what could happen in the future as opposed to tax deferred growth in the future as opposed to just taking the cash distribution. So let's talk about some choices that you have available when you're changing jobs. Realistically, there are 4 choices. First, you can take a lump sum cash distribution, and when you make that choice, it involves some consequences that we'll discuss in a little more detail shortly. Secondly, you may be able to leave your retirement money in your current employer's plan. Third, you can move it to your new employer plan, or you could do what's called an IRA rollover. So let's talk a little more detail about those 4 choices and the pros and cons of each. Now, the main issue, if you were to take a cash payment right away, nice part, immediate gratification, but it leaves you with some serious long-term consequences. On the positive side, you get to spend that money right now, whether that means buying a boat, taking a vacation, when we're back able to do that. And the downside could be significant. First, it ends the tax deferred status of your retirement savings, which we just showed is a significant issue to give up. Plus, your employer is required to withhold 20% of the payment that they send you and send that as a federal income tax withholding to the IRS. So right out of the gate, you would lose 20% right off the top. And then keep in mind, you're usually subject to state income taxes as well in those types of distributions. Now, generally, there is a 10% penalty if you withdraw your funds prior to age 59 and a half. However, due to the CARES Act that was recently signed or in March, that 10% penalty has been waived for people under the age of 59 and a half. Now, long term, there has been an exception to that 10% penalty. For those people that have already had their 55th birthday or beyond, but not yet 59 and a half, you are able to withdraw and have been able to withdraw without that 10% penalty, and that's pretty significant. Now, key point there, you must have already had your 55th birthday, and that waiver is only from retirement accounts. It does not include IRA accounts. So there is one little difference there. So it's important to really think hard before taking a cash distribution. Now, your next option would be to leave it where it is. Now, also some issues there. You're limited by the choices provided in the plan. Generally, there's not more than a dozen or so. And it can also limit the flexibility you have over future distributions and withdrawals because your money is subject to the rules under the employer's plan. Now, although many plans can be fairly liberal, many of them are still restrictive. As we call into different plans to find out what the rules are, we're finding that they're not as flexible as we would like them to be. Let's put it that way. Oh, and they usually charge you a surcharge if you're not an active employee. So that's another downside of leaving your money in your employer plan. Now, moving your money to the new employer plan allows your retirement money that you saved in your prior plan to continue tax deferred status, which is considered a benefit most of the time. Now, some plans may also permit loans against amounts that have been transferred in from another plan, even if they don't allow loans in the contributions you made into that plan. I know it's a little complicated there, but that's why we're offering that complimentary phone call to help clarify any particular direct situation type questions that you may have. Now, on the downside, compared to the IRAs, again, you've got the limited choices. And if you transfer the money from your prior employer to the new plan, those options, may be limited and might not be what you're looking for. So when we look at that, it's important to make sure that you're looking at all the options when it comes to these rollovers. Now, then we can go into an IRA rollover. So the most flexibility is afforded when you change jobs and do a rollover into an IRA. They allow you to consolidate. If you have multiple plans from different employers, you can bring them all together into one IRA. If the money you saved in your previous employer's plan include any after-tax contributions, when properly executed, you can roll them over into a Roth IRA through a direct rollover. Now, that would be a tax-free transfer because it was an after-tax contribution in the first place. Now, we don't see that a lot, but if you've got after-tax money there, an advantage is that you can roll that directly to a Roth IRA, and there's no taxes due because you did it with after-tax money in the first place. So rollover IRAs may be tapped prior to 59.5. There's a special rule called the 72T, Section 72T of the tax code, which allows you to systematically pay out money from your qualified money, your IRAs, retirement plans, etc. There are very specific calculations that have to get made. You kind of do this as a last resort, but it does allow you to draw money out of those qualified plans prior to 59.5 without having any type of a penalty. Excuse me. So the key point is when you move into a new job, if they offer a retirement plan, take advantage of it and max it out as best you can. Let's talk a little bit more about the details on the 72T distributions. So they allow you to tap into your rollover IRA account if you need the money as an income source before age 59.5. Now, you may run into a situation where you need to get some of that money. So the IRS came up with this rule quite some time ago, and you can take advantage of this. Now, the distribution must consist of what's called substantially equal periodic payments. And it is based on a life expectancy calculation. There are 3 different ways to do that through the tax code. The key point here is the payout stream must last for at least 5 years or until you reach age 59.5, whichever is later. So if you started this at, say, 57, you would have to run the payments out to age 62. If you started it at age 53, you'd have to run it to age 59.5 to comply with the rules. And if you violate the rules, and if you take money from this account beyond this payout, they will retroactively go back to your first payment and penalize you 10% on everything that you received throughout those payment years. So it's a real, like I said, it's kind of a last resort, but it is something that if you need to do it, this rule allows you to do that. Literally, I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've only done 2 72T payouts, just to show you how infrequently that it's used. Now, it's important to know the difference when you talk about IRA rollovers. Okay, so there's a direct rollover, which is custodian to custodian, and then there's an indirect rollover. Now, direct rollover, let's say you're with Fidelity and you want to move it to Vanguard or vice versa, they would send it directly to the other. You never touch it. You never have what's called incidence of ownership, and that's important from a tax perspective. So you do not receive a check. In indirect rollover, the custodian sends you a check that's payable directly to you. Now, here's the downside of that. The custodian is required by law to withhold 20%. So let's say that you had a $100,000 account and you wanted to do an indirect rollover. They will send you a check for $80,000. The 20% withholding is sent to the IRS. Now, if you wanted to roll over the entire 100,000, you then have to make up that extra 20,000 from other monies that you might have in the bank or elsewhere in order to roll the full 100. If you don't have the ability to do that, then you can only roll over the 80. So then the 20,000 that they withheld then becomes a taxable distribution. So it's important to not try this at home like they say on the TV commercials. So always you would want to work with a professional when you're considering that type of a process. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of information that we're going through here very quickly. We'd love to spend some time with you on the phone. You can text the word visit to schedule a complimentary phone call. Text visit to 200-7200. Or if you'd like the white paper on the Secure Act, again, text IRA to 200-7200. Now let's talk a little bit about building your plan and help meeting your investment objectives. Now these are the typical allocation portfolios that have been around historically for literally decades and decades. So depending on where you are and the level of risk that you're comfortable with, this is how you would structure a plan. However, we have a proprietary model that we're not showing on the screen here because, of course, we only show that to the people that we work with because it is proprietary. Just understand this, we have a bias towards asset preservation and reducing risk in portfolios. So when this big market downturn happened in the first quarter, we had a very large percentage of portfolios that were in positions that did not lose a penny because of how they were structured. So if that's something that you'd like to get more information on, again, just text the word visit to 200-7200 and we can connect with you. Now, the next slide here, we'll talk about the importance of if you had different jobs over your lifetime, and in today's world, having 3 or 4 jobs is not so unusual. So let's assume that you had 4 job changes and you did that and you saved $10,000 in each of the jobs and you rolled those over. And let's say you were 28, 35, 42, and 49. So those are the ages. So if at the age of 49, you rolled over a $10,000 retirement plan to an IRA, when you hit 65, that would have grown to $38,000. Now, if you had rolled over a second one, starting at age 42, you'd grow to 106. If you had 3 rollovers, so age 35, 42, and 49, you get 224. But look at the significance of time. If you had rolled over 10,000 from an employer plan to an IRA when you were 28, plus the other 3, well, look at the money you'd have there, 431,000. That is an enormous amount of money that if you take cash distributions, you're not going to have anywhere near that kind of build up for your retirement. So quick review, why is it so important? What you decide to do with your retirement plan can make a huge difference on your retirement future and the ability to support yourself in retirement. So even those distributions that you receive early in your career have a huge impact on those savings. So to help maximize those savings, you should know your options. Now, the options: taking the cash, keeping the money in the employer-sponsored plan, moving it to a new employer, doing an IRA rollover. Those are the 4 choices that you have. We do believe that the rollover into an IRA is the most flexible. It allows you to invest your IRA dollars into anything that's allowable. And there are some restrictions when it comes to where you put your IRA dollars. So there are some weird things like you can't buy art with IRA money, although you can buy like investment property, which is interesting. We're not involved with those. We don't recommend it because it's too dicey and too easy to violate the rules. And if you violate the rules, your entire IRA becomes a distribution, and that means it's a taxable event. So we do like the idea of the IRA rollovers. And of course, you do not give up the ability to do that 72T distribution, which you can also do through your retirement plan if the plan allows it, and it is a little bit more cumbersome. And whatever you do, whatever your decision is, certainly if you move into a new employer plan, maximize your contributions into that plan. Now, if you're under the age of 50, you're allowed to contribute as much as $19,500 per year into your retirement plan. Now, if you're age 50 or above, you get to add an additional $6,500 in that plan. So that's a large amount of money. If you can save that kind of money during your earlier years, even through your retirement years, it will have a significant positive impact on your retirement for your situation. Okay, so how are we doing? Do we have any questions there in the text box? Lauren, I'm not sure that you
No questions right now, but Jeff, if you could talk a little bit more when you showed us that kind of the red and green curve, and touch base on that just a hair again, if you would, please.
Okay, so let me just back up to that slide if I can. Let's see, where are we? Right
That
here?
one. Mm-hmm.
So what this is assuming is you save some money in your retirement plan, and at this point, you're 10 years in, you took a cash distribution, which means you're going to have that 20% tax withholding, and then you're going to lose the compounding effect of the tax deferral. So the red shaded area shows the future value in 25 years, and the green shaded area shows the enhanced value over that same period of time by not giving up that 20% in taxes. Did that help clarify that a little?
That does help to clarify. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else have any other questions on first steps, on where you should be looking, any of those types of things?
And I don't, I don't see any questions coming up in the chat box.
No,
So,
that means you were extremely thorough, and I thank you for that.
or I confused everybody, and I
Or,
hope.
right, or our heads are spinning, one or the other. But very good information, and thank you. And thank you so much for the bonus tip today. Oh my word, an IRA for the white paper or text visit for the 15-minute complimentary call. Very gracious of you. I thank you.
You're quite welcome.
If there is anything that anyone wants to stick in the chat, I will leave it open for a few minutes, and we can also then go back and get you that information after the fact. If you have other topics that you would like to see covered in an upcoming session, please let me know. I want to thank all of you for joining us, and a special thanks to our presenter, Jeff Massey, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks.
All right.
Have a great day.
Take care.